lighting up. That was weird. For anyone who knows what this is from, big W's, okay? Because we're about to talk about some anime shit. And like the worst kind of anime shit. You guys know that guy Kaiba from Yu-Gi-Oh? We're about to talk about the company that made that guy. And we're going to compare them to Kaiba. And I say that because Kaiba said, screw the rules, I have money. That was like the whole tagline of like, it was like a joke. The Yu-Gi-Oh spin-off Abridged series. It was really funny. But it wasn't something he actually said canonically. It's something he probably thought, I'm sure. And it's probably the same thing that Konami thinks when it comes to the way that they monetize their game for the West. Now, I want to show you guys two pictures. Just the pictures. And I want you guys to tell me which one of these things is not like the other. Let me just open it in a new tab. Oh, yeah, there we go. Got it ready. I want you guys to look at these two pictures and tell me which one of these looks different. Something here does not look the same. And one of these came first. Now, as you guys can tell, if you look at the card art, my head's in the way. Oops, I can move myself. Let me go ahead and slide myself down here. As you guys can tell, they have the same attack, same defense, same artwork, probably same name, same attribute, same set, right? EN 027, EN JP 027. So this is the same card number, same set, different region. Japan versus English. All cards come from Japan first and then move their way over to the West. We could look at it as the OCG versus the TCG, right? And when this card originally was printed, as you see here, it was printed as a short print rare. Short print rare, right? Not a super rare, not an ultra rare, not a secret rare, not a common, but a short print rare, right? Still kind of obnoxious that it's a short print, kind of rude, not okay, but all in all, it could be worse, right? It could have been a secret rare, or it could have been a quarter century secret rare, which is what we're looking at right here. Quarter century secret rares are the hardest to pull cards in a normal set. It goes in this order: common, rare, which I don't even know if rares are still in normal sets anymore. I don't think they are. So it goes common, super rare, ultra rare, secret rare, and then quarter century secret rare, right? In that order. Quarter century secret rares, you're generally going to get 2 per case. Not 2 per box, 2 per case. You're going to get 2 secrets per box. If I'm not mistaken, it's 2 secrets per box. May have gotten up to 3 in the past few years because I haven't played in a while. So there might be something I don't know. But I do know that when you look at the difference here, you'll see that one of these cards was printed at a vastly higher rarity and extremely more exorbitant rarity than in another region. In Japan, this is a pretty easy to get card, I'm sure, versus being one of the hardest to pull cards in a set. Now, if I were to show you guys the listing prices, if I were to close this for a short print, rare in Japan, we're looking at about $23, $24 here in the West. I'm sure in Japan, because there's no reason for it to be that expensive in the West, it's probably a little bit cheaper in the East. My bad. Yo, what up, Creeper? It's probably a little bit cheaper in the East. Probably something along the lines of like, I don't know, the equivalent of like $12 to $17 in yen. That's my guess. Does anyone want to take a guess how much this exact same card with the same effect, with the same abilities, costs in the West? In America, the Europes, South America, all of that. Does someone want to take a guess? We went from one of the easiest to pull rarities to the hardest. I'm just going to stop lurking for you. Appreciate that. Real one. So, I'm going to show you guys. 40s? Oh, you think, huh? Try 140s. Try 140s. This is the difference between the way Konami chooses to monetize their game in the East, where there's a lot of competition for card games, and you have to be competitive, versus a market that is extremely oversaturated by Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, and Magic the Gathering. Now, I would say that wouldn't be the case and shouldn't be the case, because there's been a lot of Bandai Namco card games that have gotten popular and then fell out of fucking favor, but it's because of Bandai Namco themselves. Apologies for the swearing, but it really pisses me off, because it makes the card games that are the big 3 in America, or in the West rather, very high demand. And because they're high demand, it means that companies can choose to add artificial scarcity by changing the rarities of cards, as they did here, as they did here for this example. This isn't a corner case. This is something that happens very frequently across a lot of sets. For Yu-Gi-Oh! It's been happening for years. We know that a lot of times, a lot of cards will go from being a rare or being a super or being a common to being ultra or secret rare to push the product, right? Like, these are the best cards in the set. These are the best archetypes in the set. So we will push that by making those cards high rarity, which means they're harder to get. So you or your local game store have to open more boxes, more cases to get the cards flowing through the system to allow more people to play the deck. One, it makes the decks harder to play or harder to get a hold of because there's less of those cards in circulation. Two, it makes those decks more expensive because there is less of those in circulation, supply and demand. If you make the most powerful decks, the highest rarity decks, it means that generally people are going to have to pay more for those prices because those cards are printed less frequently than something like a common or a rare, even a super rare, right? You're going to get more super rares in a box than you are ultras or secrets. This is not good for any card game, truly. Like, if you look at the difference in price here, this is not okay. And like I said, I'm sure this is even less in the OCG. I'm sure in OCG land, if we go to Japan, you probably get this shit for like the equivalent of $15 in yen. I'm almost certain of it. And this is going to be instead $150 here. It's a very high power, or at least we assume, high power hand trap for the new format to replace a card like Maxi. Maybe it won't, but there's another one on the way that does a relatively similar thing coming from the next core set. I think it's called Rage of the Abyss, coming from that set right after that does the opposite effect of this. This is whenever your opponent special summons or normal summons a monster from the hand, immediately draw. That one is deck or extra deck, right? But you can only activate one of each per turn. You can only activate one other Molcharmi monster per turn. You activate this effect. So if you activate a Paralia or whatever, you can only activate one of the other. And there's going to be 3, I think. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. But regardless, if this is the first one we're getting and this is the treatment they give to it, it's scary to think about what they're going to do with the next 2, isn't it? The Infinite Forbidden was already a set that had Fiendsmith and pretty much shook up the format in a, I would say some would call it a detrimental way, right? Some would say that the Fiendsmith cards are a little too pushed, very powerful, not so okay to play against. But if this had been a higher power level card, if this had been a 3-up for every single deck and every deck needed it, how would you play the game? How would feasibly people be allowed to play? You'd have to spend $450 just for 3 cards out of your 40 card deck, not including your side deck and extra deck. Insane amount of greed, right? And while we say that Konami prints the cards but does not actually make this money that's on the secondary market. Let's look at this number up here. Konami does not get $144, $145, let's round up, for this card being sold. This is sold by a secondary party on the secondary market that has nothing to do with Konami. But Konami prints these cards knowing that there will be chase cards, allowing this secondary market to thrive. If this card was extremely powerful but a common, then it would be very easy to access, meaning people would not have to open as many boxes. I can show you guys another example here, right? One of the stronger cards a long time ago. This was a really powerful card a very long time ago. Breakers of Shadow. Bosch. Bosch was a good set. Move this over here. Move this over here. Oh my gosh, it went down like crazy. I guess because there's so many printings of it. This card. Twin Twisters. Discard 1 card and then target up to 2 spells and trap cards on the field and destroy them. Right? Quick effect. Basically, double MST. MST on crack, you could get rid of 2 cards instead of 1. So instead of 2 for 1ing, instead of 1 for 1ing, you're 2 for 2ing, which is pretty good. And it also means that if your deck has some sort of graveyard synergies or discard synergies, you can get those synergies as well on top of it. This card was like a $5 or $6 card when it released, if I'm not mistaken. But it didn't matter that it was that much. It's showing like, let's go 1 year. See, it like went up to almost $1, right? But we'd have to go even further back. We'd have to go to like its original printing. Or view more data. Am I allowed to like go all the way through the? Nah, I can't. Darn. I would love to view more market price history from the year it launched, but that was a long time ago. That was almost 10 years ago now. I think Breakers of Shadow was like 2015 or something, 2016. This card was $5, but everyone had access to it, right? It was still kind of expensive, a little pricey, but it was a super rare from the set instead of being a common, or on the other end, instead of being an ultra rare or a secret rare. This is like a perfectly fine rarity to print staple cards that most people are going to want at. I don't hate this. This isn't egregious. Another example is Dino Wrestler Pankratops. For a long time, Dino Wrestler Pankratops was in like everyone's side deck. This is like the only Dino Wrestler monster people give a fuck about. And its first printing was in Soul Fusion as a short print common. But as you see, this card costs fucking nothing. This card costs 25 cents. I think when this card peaked, it peaked at like $2. $2.50, okay? So for the cost of buying a coffee from the convenience store, you could get yourself a Dino Wrestler Pankratops. For the cost of lunch for the day, you could get 3 powerful side deck cards because you want 3 copies. Instead of going to get your, you know, fucking $5 biggie bag from Wendy's, spend an extra $1.50, $2.50, and get yourself a full play set of Dino Wrestler Pankratops, which is going to your side deck. That is a far cry from this. For a card that a lot of people probably are going to want to play or test to find out if it's as meta relevant as people think it's going to be, this is an extremely exorbitant price, and it feels greedy. It doesn't feel short-sighted. It doesn't feel like an oversight, or like, oh, our bad, we didn't think about it. It feels like greed, and it feels like short-sighted greed, where all you're going to do is piss off your most core player base and make a lot of them retreat from wanting to play the game. The game already doesn't really gain a lot of new players the same way that another TCG like Pokemon or Magic the Gathering does because of the complexity of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's a pretty hard game, and these prices don't make it any easier to get new players into the door. How can they sustain themselves as a big three when it comes to card games if they continue to do practices like this? I don't hate Yu-Gi-Oh! I like the game, so I'm talking about it because I want it to get better. I'm not a hater. I'm an onlooker seeing that this is $150 and realizing that's the same price as my goddamn electric bill. That's insane. For one card. I feel like I needed to rant about that because it doesn't feel fair the way they treat the OCG and the way they treat the Asian countries in comparison to America. It's like America has to be the money hog where they make the vast majority of their profits because they have to be uber competitive because there's so many more card games in Japan that people can enjoy and play. In the West, a lot of card games don't stick, so they instead push those high rarities and force the TCG to buy into this volatile and expensive market, but don't do any of that shit in the East. Am I tripping? Or is that a valid way to feel? If you're a Yu-Gi-Oh player, if you're a card game player in general, any of these things kind of irk you and make sense in the aspect of your card games, or you think that they would feel this way in your card game as well, leave it down in the comment section down below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, where I talk about all sorts of random gaming-related things that piss me off or get me fired up. This has been Beanie Thuggish talking about the different treatment of the TCG and OCG when it comes to cards and card rarities and how much it pisses me off. Signing out and saying peace.